What if I told you that in a country bustling with life, there are multi-billion-shilling airports that have never seen a single passenger? How do you explain an entire airport, fully constructed, lying dormant for years? Tonight, we dive deep into the baffling, unsolved mystery of Kenya's ghost airports, seeking answers to the questions that still haunt these abandoned structures. Airports are supposed to be symbols of progress, gateways that connect regions, stimulate tourism, grow local economies, and create opportunities. For many Kenyans, the promise of a new airport meant hope, hope for jobs, hope for business, hope for development. Yet, scattered across this nation are shiny, empty facilities, multi-billion-shilling investments that have turned into haunting monuments of waste. The silence of these airports is deafening, echoing the story of failed leadership, mismanagement, and a betrayal of the taxpayers whose sweat built them. So now let's begin with Isiolo International Airport. Launched with pomp and political fanfare, this airport was marketed as the pride of northern Kenya, costing nearly 2.7 billion shillings, and it was expected to transform Isiolo into a tourism hub and a gateway for livestock exports to the Middle East. Located strategically between Meru, Isiolo, and Samburu counties, it was supposed to serve as a lifeline for the Lapset project and for northern Kenya's economic dreams. But today, the runways lie quiet, flights are rare, sometimes going for months without a single scheduled service. Terminal buildings stand locked, with security lights glowing at night. Guards patrol the empty compound, all funded by taxpayers. Ordinary Kenyans continue to ask, why spend billions on an airport that barely serves anyone? Move southwest to Suneka Airstrip in Kisii County. This project consumed close to 1 billion shillings, with contractors promising that Western Kenya would soon have faster access to Nairobi and beyond. But instead of roaring engines and bustling passengers, what greets visitors is silence. The runway is covered in weeds, the terminal fenced off, and locals pass by daily wondering why their money was wasted on a facility that was never even opened. Despite continuous allocations in government budgets, Suneka remains a ghost project. The story continues in Mandera County, where the government invested heavily in airport expansion under the Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. Billions were sunk into projects meant to improve connectivity for one of Kenya's most remote counties, with the promise of supporting trade with Ethiopia and Somalia. But the reality? Only a handful of government and NGO flights occasionally use the airstrip. For ordinary citizens, the airport remains out of reach, serving no meaningful purpose for the community it was meant to uplift. In Wajir County, the airport was once upgraded with the justification of enhancing security and trade. The Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, under the Ministry of Transport, spent billions in taxpayer money. Yet the facility is mostly inactive, its operations sporadic, leaving residents to wonder whether the investment was truly for them, or just another entry in Kenya's long history of ghost projects. Let's not forget the Nyeri International Airport, sometimes called the airport that never was. Promised by politicians as a future gateway to central Kenya, millions of shillings were spent upgrading airstrips in anticipation. Yet today, there is no functioning international airport in Nyeri. The county remains dependent on small airstrips, while the promised mega project fades into memory. The unanswered question is, who is to blame? These projects fall directly under the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure, which has overseen aviation investments for decades. Billions of shillings were allocated through the Kenya Airports Authority and the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. Yet feasibility studies were either poorly done or ignored. No one asked whether these regions had the passenger traffic to sustain airports. No one questioned whether livestock exports, security needs, or tourism numbers justified such massive spending. Instead, ribbon-cutting ceremonies took place, photographs were taken, and politicians boasted of development. Today, those same leaders are silent, leaving ordinary taxpayers to carry the burden. The waste is staggering. Imagine the billions spent Isiolo alone at 2.7 billion, Suneka close to 1 billion, and others in Mandera, Wajir, and Nyeri still unaccounted for. These funds came from taxpayers, hardworking Kenyans who pay VAT on goods, income tax from their salaries, levies on fuel, and countless other charges. Instead of building hospitals, equipping schools, or fixing roads, their money went into ghost airports that today serve no one. The Auditor General's reports have raised concerns year after year about these white elephant projects. Billions are marked as unutilized assets or non-performing investments, yet no one has been prosecuted. No senior official has been held accountable. Were these projects ever about development, or were they simply avenues for looting public money under the disguise of progress? The impact on communities is heartbreaking. In Isiolo, locals were promised tourism jobs and a booming economy. Today, young people remain jobless, with the airport standing as a locked fortress rather than a gateway. In Kisii, business owners had prepared for increased traffic. Guest houses were opened, transport services anticipated. More demand. Instead, silence. In Mandera and Wajir, residents hoped for better connectivity to the rest of Kenya, but they still depend on long, dangerous road journeys. The betrayal is real, and the anger is silent but growing. These ghost airports represent more than failed buildings. They represent broken trust. They are physical reminders of the widening gap between the government and its people. Every time a Kenyan pays tax at the supermarket counter, fuels a car, or receives a paycheck, part of that money goes into the government's pocket. Yet, instead of delivering essential services, the money is wasted on projects that rot in silence. So, what is the truth behind Kenya's ghost airports? Were they political vanity projects meant to win votes in regions desperate for development? Were they designed to enrich contractors and politicians through inflated budgets? Or are they simply the result of incompetence and poor planning by ministries that failed to do their homework? The answers remain hidden, locked behind government files and political silence. To this day, Isiolo International Airport remains half alive. Suneka Airstrip fenced off, and airstrips in Mandera, Wajir, and Nyeri remain largely inactive. Billions are gone, communities are disappointed, and taxpayers continue to pay the price. Until someone is held accountable, these airports will continue to haunt Kenya's landscape, standing as monuments of corruption, waste, and failed leadership. Kenya's ghost airports remain an unsolved riddle, modern facilities abandoned before they ever came alive. They stand as haunting reminders of what happens when politics, money, and poor planning collide. Until the truth is revealed, these silent airports will continue to whisper questions that no one seems willing to answer. This has been Crime Files. If you found this story eye-opening, don't forget to subscribe, share, and join us as we uncover more hidden truths and unsolved mysteries across Kenya.